Hello everybody and welcome. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to tank in Heroes of the Storm. This is perhaps one of the most useful abilities in the entire game and will show us how to play a role. Here I've picked ETC, one of my favorite tanks and perhaps the easiest tank to learn. I'm going to not really focus too much on the build that I'm going for or even showing how to fight dynamically in a team. I'm mostly going to be focused 100% on showing you how to tank. Oh, what team do we have? Zagara, Nova, Falstad, Arthas. Okay, interesting team. No healers, so I'm actually going to go for a little bit of a healing tank build to try and keep my HP and the HP of my fellows up quite high. And we're playing on Cursed Hollow against Tracer, Arthas, Zagara, Illidan, Murky. If you haven't noticed, this isn't a quick match setting, so don't expect high levels of amazing play, but recently I've been pretty frustrated, I would say, about what's been going on in Hero League, and I've been losing games that we had every right to win, and I've been winning games that I have every right not to have won, just by simple mistakes done by a single or even two people of the team. So I really want to just show everybody this is what it takes to be a tank. Now, let's go over what a tank is, more specifically a melee warrior who's meant to soak up damage. Briefly, I mean, that's exactly what he is. He's a melee warrior who's meant to soak up damage. That's exactly what a tank does. What that means is generally you want to be in the front of your team trying to waste enemy hero abilities on yourself. Now, what are the hero abilities? Well, you can see here that I have these list of abilities, and all enemy heroes on the enemy team will have the same list of abilities, or excuse me, the same amount of abilities, 3 abilities at the start of the game, generally speaking. And they do damage or stun or cause healing effects. Now, of course, I can't absorb the enemy team's healing effects, but I can take all of their damage. And since my character has such a high health pool, but relatively low damage output, it is an exquisite idea for my team if I'm the one taking the damage. For if I was to die, but use up all of the enemy's damaging abilities, also, hello, Arthas, then I wouldn't have hurt my team in any way, or at least not in a significant way. Now, that doesn't mean that you should just go in here and die, but it does mean that if you do die, don't feel so bad as long as your team wins the fight, because you're kind of meant to take the hit for the team. Now, let's talk briefly about my abilities. That Q ability, which you saw me use on that Murky, is a power slide. What that means is that I'll travel in a straight line, trying to stun the Murky, as I just did there, and then I will click my W in most instances, which is a push ability, a circular push ability that moves enemy targets away from me. Finally, my E ability is a self-heal, which when I proc will cause my friendly teammates to attack more quickly, and also myself to attack more quickly. Quite a useful ability, and it keeps you alive. My heroic trait is tied to my E, which is that Rock On. Now, I am doing something a little bit high-end here. I'm just trying to get a gank on this Zagara. And, of course, I presume everybody knows what a gank is, but I didn't ping for it, so, of course, this Falstad didn't know what I was doing. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to keep roaming around trying to grab these globes. So, as we can see, the enemy team also has some characters that are pretty close to our own. Now, a lot of people, at least what I think happens, is that you almost have something which is kind of like a pride match or a grudge match, where you'll see team members constantly trying to kill each other because the friendly and enemy teams constantly trying to kill the same singular hero over and over again because they feel as though they need to one-up them. Do not fall into this trap. I repeat, you are the tank. You are meant to try and lead your team. You are meant to try and soak up damage for your team. Do not try and 1v1 heroes simply because they killed you before, or they killed one of your friends before, or you've killed them before. It does not matter. You are there to protect your friends. You are there to make sure that they are in a safe environment where they can grow and develop. Quite literally, since they need levels in order to go stronger. Now we see here, this is a perfect opportunity for me to deal with this Arthas. He's captured by our friendly team, and I was a little slow in reacting to that due to my lengthy explanation, but we are going to take him out. Maybe not, but that's okay. Now, I'm instantly moving away from that target, and I'm coming here to help our Nova, as you just saw, deal with that Illidan who was hunting her down trying to kill her. Next, I'm going to move away from the team towards the front, or the enemy team's side of the map, where they'll most likely be coming from, to try and cut off any advance or any retreat, as you just saw which happened with this Murky. Playing as the tank is quite honestly one of the few times where you need complete map awareness. Now, nobody ever has complete map awareness, but the mini-map and knowing where the enemy team is and where the friendly team is incredibly important. Generally, when you play a support, it's a good idea, of course, in any role to know where the enemy and friendly teams are, but you're more focused on the friendly team. When you play as an assassin, you are more focused on where the enemy team is, for they're the ones that you need to do damage to. And when you play as a specialist, you're aware of both at the same time, but you kind of are in this weird role where you can get away with not really being with your team most of the time or staying with your team, just kind of, being a bit more flaky. But as the tank, you need to be aware of what's going on around you. So I can see that there's this big roam. I've let this Murky get up closer to our towers than he needed to be, and just like that, we should get a double kill here. So I kept that Murky away from the friendly team while they were able to zone that Zagara and get the kill. I let him push into me, knowing that he would have less of an escape route once I got behind him and in front of my team. Now, if that makes sense, feel free. I will be writing an article about this in the bottom, which you guys can probably already see, about tanking, its origins, all that type of stuff, and how perhaps to do it in different styles. But for now, I'm just trying to make sure that my team stays as safe as physically possible. See, another very important thing that you should mention is that just like with all heroes, using your abilities at the right time is imperative, but as a tank, you really need to know the abilities of the enemy team so that you can counteract them with your own CC, meaning crowd control. Right there, the enemy Murky, if I speaking a few seconds in the past, and here I am once again, he's using that bubble ability. And that bubble ability currently made him invulnerable to everything. If I had played better the past 30 seconds, I would have been able to have stunned him before that ability went off, or after the ability went off, to make sure that we could secure a kill. Not really too important, it is only a Murky, but very useful to think about in the future. It doesn't really matter the character as long as you're playing to the best of your ability. Now, we are approaching the level 10 mark, and unfortunately it seems a few members of my team have died. But what that means is no longer, or at least a little bit less, quite a bit less, should I be alone. I should be focusing more on helping to defend my team. Now, I probably need to go run away. Yeah, I need to run away from this. But that means that I need to try and protect my team much more because both teams now have their heroic abilities. What that means is that there's quite a bit more damage potentially coming in on my friendly teammates if I'm not paying attention. So right there, Nova and I set up tried to set up a massive stun to get rid of that Tracer who had been harassing me. And by zoning enough, I appeared, or at least I think I have, stopped the enemy team from controlling this objective and keeping it alive. Now you can see that I'm on fairly low health, but I have been stacking for a heal. I'm aware of my map, so I knew that the enemy team was all relatively low and split up, and that my team was returning with relatively full health because they had just died. And of course, when you die, you return to the game with full health after a certain period of time. You need to be aware of what's going on around you so much as a tank, and this is probably the most important thing I can ever say. Use your abilities sparingly at the right times and be aware of your team and what's going on around you. Right now, I know that I don't necessarily need to be 100% with my team because a few members of the enemy team were dead, so they were still respawning and running back, and also the current objective is up, which means that by being alone, I can earn quite a bit of XP. What our team should have done in this case, which unfortunately they did not, was split up so that way they could generate XP in every single lane. Now I'm in a bit of danger here because I know that several members of the enemy team are still alive and several members of my team are dead / respawning. Another one has just died, and they're signaling me to retreat. So the enemy team has vision of me, which I was aware of, and I should be able to escape these two. Yep, just like so. So they had vision of me, so I just needed to make sure that I got the heck out of dodge. There's no problem to be had. Now, I am a little worried about what this fall stat has taken, because once again we'll be talking about synergy in a later video. But for now, as the tank, I have picked up my R ability, my heroic ability, which is the Mosh Pit. which means that for a considerable length of time, I don't remember it off the top of my head, and I need to get into this team fight, I can lock down the entirety of the enemy team, if I do it right, in a long CC stun, which will stop them from using any abilities or anything like that. Unfortunately, this means it can be interrupted by a false dad's gust. So we're really hoping right now that Arthas has picked up Syndragosa, that false dad has picked up Shock and Awe, or the Hinterland Blast, excuse me, that Nova has either gone for triple tap or the global AoE damage thing. I don't remember the name of it. I haven't played Nova since I picked up Zeratul. But right here, perfect example of zoning, cutting off an enemy. She had to use her ultimate, and she hasn't even survived. That is an exquisite outcome for us. It looks like Falstad has picked up the Gust. We just need to zone for a Nova, and once again, she makes it out of alive. That's what it's all about. You are not meant to get kills. I will emphasize that again. If you're playing as a tank, and I will go over some tank heroes later in the future. In fact, I should probably have done that at the beginning of the video. If you're playing as a main tank, please, 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 people are generally relying on you to soak up damage and to keep them safe. It's okay to have fun. You can always have fun in Heroes of the Storm. It's all about having fun at the end of the day. But if you're going into a setting and you know that you're putting others at risk merely for your own benefit, perhaps you should play with a group of friends who know what's going on around you and can change their playstyle around yours. There's nothing worse than getting into a game and thinking, oh, here's an excellent Mosh pattern. Perfect. Keep them off that point. Let our Falstad get it. Let's get the heck out of here. I've signaled retreat. That means we should run away. We could have tried to push back into here, but I think retreating is probably the best move we have. 2 members of our team are dead. There's no reason for us to really go away. I'm going to wait in this bush, make sure that my Falstad gets out of here alive. Perfect. And we'll keep moving forward. There's another tribute spawning. Luckily, we're in a pretty good area for it. And everything looks pretty good. You know, there's no reason for us to really worry too much. Perfect shot by our Nova. Everything's going well. Now let's pick up a little bit more on interacting with the team. Right there, we saw that I signaled the retreat and backed away. However, I stayed in a little bit more than pretty much any other type of hero can, merely because I have that high health pool. I have the ability to stop incoming damage from harming my team, and I have the ability to escape in most cases using my Q and using my self-heal abilities. Now, of course, I could potentially use my Mosh Pit to help me escape, or at least to extend the period of time that my friendly team would have to rendezvous with me. However, generally, you want to save your heroic abilities for the larger team fights. Now, I'm doing a little bit of map exploration and stuff like that, and I'll talk about that when we get into the higher ideas of what should be going on around here. But this is an excellent engagement for us. Ooh, the Falstad pushed him away. I was going to say this was an excellent ambush engagement chance for us, merely because that Murky had pushed up beyond the lengths of his team, i.e. 4 members of the enemy team were behind him, cut off between 5 members of us. So if we had dived in on the 4 or the 1, we would have been in a much better position versus running after both at the same time. And that's merely a quick match thing. You need to ping a lot and that type of stuff, and frankly, I didn't do that. Later, once they implement voice comms and things like that, perhaps it will be better. But we really need to pick one or the other. And as the tank, unfortunately, it's your job to signal that out. But whether people are listening to you or not, we don't know. Now, that would have been an easy kill on the Murky if I had been paying attention, but that's okay. And forgive me, please, for any misplays that I do make. I am recording this at the time of playing. It's going to make life a little bit difficult. Hopefully, you guys don't hear me clicking. I'm going to have to edit that real hard. Hit it with the edit bat. And this is a perfect kill chance for our Murky. Woo! Come here, Nova. Let's stop that ultimate using my W ability, which is a stun. And let's hope that somebody circles back. Our Nova's running the wrong way. Somebody circles back to kill this Murky. Nope. Okay. Now, I'm not going to touch on the UI or anything like that, because I feel like I should write about that in an article, perhaps, on how to use your UI, what type of ways you should be playing. But if you guys have any suggestions, please feel free to mention them, because I am always open to suggestions. And I do really love this game quite a bit, and I'd like to read more about it. I'd like to send more messages. This is a perfect opportunity to Mosh Pit if more of them come in. Perhaps here? Can I... I'm going to hold it because it looks like we're going to get the kill anyways. Sindragosa, Mosh Pit time. Perfect. Oh, I died for it. That's okay, though. We should be able to trade 2 for 1, which is exactly what we want. Or 2 for 2. I don't quite know. But we can see here that perhaps I held on to my ability a little too long. That's okay. We all make mistakes. You can't beat yourself up about it. But we did manage to secure some room for our team, and we're able to get the kills. It looks like we did destroy Murky's egg also. And we got a Tracer. Exquisite. Now let's see what's going on around the map, huh? What is that? Nova got the tribute? Well done, Nova. And she used her global AoE on top of the Mosh Pit in order to try and deal a lot of damage. So that is a pretty good Nova play. Now the enemy team is ahead of us on XP, which is fairly surprising. They have done a little bit more pushing than us. And there we go, we've caught back up, and now they're ahead again. We just need to destroy a couple of forts and keeps, and we should do quite well. I'm going to grab this globe real quick. Now there isn't a globe here. Oh, okay. Whatever. I'll just push this lane a tiny bit, make sure that it's going in the right direction, and that'll go help my team capture this boss. Now, when you play with somebody and you do have 2 tanks on your team, it is generally also a good idea to figure out, and if you know the characters in your head, which of you is the better mainline tank and which of you is the better damage dealer. So Arthas, in general, is a better damage dealer than me as ETC. He has a faster attack rate, he roots people instead of stuns them, and he has a conal AoE of damage which applies a slow. So that means he's more of a frontline damage dealing warrior versus me, who's more of a CC, somewhat frontline, but at the same time supporting tank main. Now, the reason I'm a supporting tank main is merely because of the talents that I've chosen, but I'm able to gap close with the enemy a lot easier than Arthas is. I can use my Q to either go into an enemy that's trying to escape, to stun several enemies who are perhaps using heroic abilities, or to move backwards very quickly to get out of a situation or to defend a friendly hero. Arthas doesn't have any of those abilities in his kit. He did pick up his R ability, which he chose was Sindragosa, one of my favorite dragons from World of Warcraft, but that really should be used either as an offensive pushing mechanism or as a very, very drastic defensive running mechanism. It's hard to hit multiples of the enemy team, just as he used Sindragosa here as an offensive ability to channel out these buildings. It would be in the same vein. It's hard to hit the entire enemy team with Sindragosa, especially before level 20, because a lot of members of the enemy team are very quick. You have Tracer, you have Illidan, you have a Murky. They all have ways of getting out and stopping roots and stuns. Now, I'm going to pick up Bolt of the Storm here just because I don't want to get too much into the talent feeds. I'll talk about those at the end of the video. Whoa! Alright. Oh, that would have been a perfect Mosh chance if our Falstad didn't... That's okay. Oh, right there! Nope. Never mind. And it appears we may lose this one. I'm not sure if I should signal for retreat yet. We're going to get this Illidan. And this puts us in a pretty good spot because our Nova can absolutely wreck him. That's what we're looking for. Now, I do see our Zagara being chased away by the enemy Arthas, but there isn't really much I can do to help her, so I'm merely going to make sure that I'm soaking up this damage for our Nova in order to secure that tribute. And this should really help us push forward and hopefully take some of the enemy keeps, maybe even... No, we can't win the game. Now, let's get rid of that guy. Now, let's also talk about some of the other team dynamics that you should really look for as you're playing as a tank. If you're a tank, and you have a very good dedicated healer, and not a very heavy warrior team, i.e. let's say you have an Uther, yourself who is ETC, a Vala, a Kalthos, and perhaps a Gaslow, whatever. You are pretty safe in assuming that you're going to be consuming a lot of your own team's heals if you drop low, because the majority of your team should be in the back line. Of course, if the enemy team has a lot of dives, you need to equate yourself to the idea that you get less. And after the first couple of engagements, you should realize roughly how much healing you can expect based off of what's going on around you. And this is what I like to call the adaptive hero. Any hero can play this way, not only tanks, but you need to be adaptive in order to make the best out of team fights. What I've been trying to set up throughout this entire game is I've known that the enemy team is close to me during different areas of the map, and trying to put them in locations like this little channel right here, or this channel right here that I'm currently running through, to cause the easiest ability for me to catch the most members of the enemy team in my Mosh Pit. Because the majority of my team picked global ultimates, or ultimates that will deal deal damage while I am mosh pitting. So our Arthas could lay down an excellent Sindragosa, and our Nova could deal a huge amount of damage with her AoE ability, which I still don't remember the name of. Unfortunately, our Falstad did not. But that's what I call an adaptive playstyle. Because if I land a Mosh in one of those choke points, it's much less likely that that annoying Falstad ability will ruin what's going on around me. As I was mentioning earlier, the same thing should be done if you have healers. We just saw that, that Murky's in the bush, whatever, Falstad will go clear him out. But if the healer does not heal you very much, you can either ask for more heals, which is always a good idea. We should get the hell out of here, though. Or you can understand that you're not going to get as many heals as you would think, and that perhaps playing a little bit more passively, or playing ultra aggressively in order to make up for that fact, would be the way to go. You just need to judge your team. Now let's say that you're playing with 2 supports. You can expect a lot more healing, but that also means as a solo tank, or if you have 2 tanks, you need to be going for more of a damage build. And of course, builds in Heroes of the Storm are done through their talents. And I will talk a lot about talents at the end of the video, so please stay tuned for that. But that means that you really, really have to constantly be thinking about what's going on around you. Too many people enter Heroes of the Storm, at least in my mind, and they say, let's kill somebody, and that's their job. You see that Falstad? That was the best play he could have made at that point. He said, I'm going to protect my team. There's no way that we can win this team fight unless a miracle happens. He probably didn't know, but he would have thought that my Mosh Pit was on cooldown. And he would have known that Zagara doesn't have her CC ability, the Giant Moth. Instead, she chose Nidus Network, which in my personal opinion on a map this large is probably great. I need to protect this Nova, hit my E ability, let's get her some heals. There we go. And she lives. Now, I am sacrificing Nova for Arthas there. I've realized that, and I've made that decision in my mind. Arthas is not as important to our team as Nova, merely because I can fill in his role as the tank. In the same way, if it was a choice between Nova or myself, I would expect... Excuse me, everybody. I would expect Arthas to pick Nova almost 100% of the time, because she is more imperative to our team fight than anything else. So whenever you start playing Heroes of the Storm, and if you do enjoy tanking, or if you've been playing forever, don't think of the heroes as people. I know that sounds horrible, but think of them as a group. You are all a single ant colony meant to build your castle. We could win right now, though. We do have a boss, and 2 members of the enemy team are dead. That's okay, we can just go grab their boss. Anyway, so if you are playing and there's 2 supports and you're the only tank, and it's a choice between a support or your, I believe I said Vala in the instance that I said. So it's your Uther or your Vala that are going to die, and on your team you also have the Gazlo and a Lili. Save the Vala, because Uther can be replaced somewhat by Lili. She can fill in the role of that hero. And that's why earlier back in the beta, back in the alpha, all those types of things, we saw a lot of teams designed around having doubles or sometimes even triples of the same role. recently the old 3 assassins or 2 assassins, 1 specialist, 1 tank, 1 healer has come around a little bit more. But I'm starting to think that people are going to lean back towards the double tank or the double support. It looks like we're going to win the game here. So in closing, ooh, this is a little dangerous. Darn it, Falstad, that was a really good time to mosh them. Oh well, I pulled out the Zagara's giant devouring maw. But yes, we're definitely going to win the game here. So in closing, as a tank, if you're a main tank, please try and peel, which means get the enemy team off your team, and soak up as much damage as you feel relatively comfortable with. It's okay for you to die as long as your team wins or makes a safe retreat from a team fight. Now, I did mention that I'd go over the stats real quick in this game. And also, yes, my name is Daddy Fat Sack, if anybody would like to have me on, add me on Battle.net, I'd have no problems. But I went for a fairly well-rounded healing build. This you can find on HOTS logs and things like that. Fairly normal ETC build. I take a lot of damage, I did some damage, and I earned a lot of XP. Well done. That's what you want to see. You want to try and make those stats as good as you can. Goodbye, and please check out the article below for more tips and tricks on how to tank.